And then you'll just keep filming. If you just keep it. All right. So
All
whenever
set?
you're ready to start,
All right.
we're so happy to welcome you to our class.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. So you guys can just call me Holly. My name's Holly Bernier. I'm a conservation officer with the state of Connecticut. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about what we do, how we get involved in other Ps, how we get involved with first aid, how we get involved with search and rescue, and the different kind of scenes that we kind of utilize forensic science. So I think, has anyone ever seen an officer with this uniform before?
No.
Yeah. Yeah? Does anyone fish or hunt? Fish?
Mhm.
Nice, okay. So we are just like a state trooper, but we focus on the environment. So we have some cool pictures here so you can get an idea of what we do. Go ahead, Nate, you can go to the next screen. So we're the oldest law enforcement agency in the state of Connecticut. We were established in 1895. Go ahead, Nate. And basically what we do is we enforce all the motor vehicle laws like a trooper, like a regular cop, public safety, domestic violence, narcotics, but we focus really on the environment. So fishing and hunting, boating, trapping, wildlife, all that good stuff. Go ahead, Nate. So that's exactly what I just said. And this is the big one, which we'll talk about assisting other agencies. Go ahead, Nate.
Wait, does that include like if you swim somewhere you're not supposed to, like a reservoir?
Reservoirs, that would include that, yep, in some parts of the state. If you, yeah, just let it come through. So this is some pictures of what we do in the field. So we're pretty active. So up here, we check ice fishermen in the winter. So when the lakes freeze over, we're checking them. This is some of our boats in the salt water. We check commercial fishermen. So, you know, our clams, our lobster, that's all regulated. You can only take so much in a certain period of time. Yeah, don't mind the graphics. This is some of our benefits within the job. It's 20 years in and out. It's a hazardous duty job because of what we do. And again, it's a good job. It's a state job. There's benefits, all that great stuff. So when you get the job, and it seems to be doing its own thing right here. Can you go back one, Nate? Perfect. So to get the job, it took me 2.5 years to get the job. So you apply, you have to take a physical fitness test, you have to take a psychology exam, a medical evaluation, you have to go through a polygraph, which is a lie detector test. You have to run, do sit-ups, do all that good stuff. Go ahead, Nate. And then if you get onto the department, you go to our police academy, which is 22 weeks. You live there Monday through Friday. And they teach you how to be a cop, how to shoot guns, how to use your handcuffs. It's like being in school like this, like college. Your nose is in the books. There's like 818 courses that you have to get through successfully. And this is my class, just some pictures of us once we got to the end. We have to do a swim test at the end, and where you're in the pool with your whole uniform on. Go ahead.
How long is the swim test?
The swim test is 4 times up and back in an Olympic-sized pool, and then you tread water for 5 minutes in the deep end, and then you have to retrieve a puck in, I think it's 13 feet of water, and bring it back up.
That'll hurt your ears.
It does hurt your ears. I thought they were gonna explode. The pressure was, you just do what you gotta do to get through it, because at the end of the day, that's what you need to do, you know? Go ahead, Nate. So when you're at the academy, this is just some of the firearms that we use. That's a shotgun, this is an AR. We carry them in our patrol vehicles to utilize. Go ahead, Nate. You can skip through that one. We already talked about that. This is just some of the different uniforms that we wear out in the field. This is our field uniform. This is our dressy one in case we have to go to funerals or special details. Come here, dude. Go ahead, Nate. And that's just one of our pictures of our officers. We have 54 statewide, which is not a lot compared to the territory that we cover. And this is just a picture of what state? Yeah. And so I, for instance, cover from this town all through here and all through here. So a lot of driving, a lot of alone time. There's not a lot of backup. You don't ride along with another officer. It's usually you're your own boss. You have to make decisions and figure everything out on your own. Go ahead, Nate. So we have a lot of water in the state of Connecticut. We have 2,000 rivers and streams, 237 lakes and ponds, and we have 138 state parks and forests. Have you guys ever been to any parks and forests in the state? Yeah? Which one?
I forgot the name.
You
of
forgot?
It. Yeah.
Is it around here?
No.
No. What about you?
Wickham Park?
Where?
Wickham Park?
Where's that?
East Hartford.
East Hartford?
It's definitely East Hartford.
Borders.
Oh,
So it's in the
right
area, safe to say, right? Okay, go ahead, Nate. You can skip through that one. So basically, we have, our boss is a colonel, then we have captains and sergeants in the field, and we have the officers in the field. This is just some pictures of our range. We have to qualify every year with all of our firearms, and this is some of our patrol vehicles. So we also get to utilize snowmobiles in the winter. How are you? And we did have a bike patrol unit. We have our ATVs, which is always fun. Go ahead, Nate.
Where's that?
Where's what?
That.
This is in the northwest part of the state, in Harwington. So it's a place where you can hunt, and then the guys were out there checking hunters. This is one of our boats in the salt water. So we have boats in the marine section, twin engine safe boats. And these check all the big boats out on the water. Jet skis, we have flat bottom boats. These are like on the Connecticut River, you'll see,
Yeah.
which isn't far from here, right? Go ahead, Nate.
Oh.
That's okay. So, forensic science, you guys know about that, right? Like CSI, all that good stuff. So, we have a unit, a specialized unit that just goes over boating accidents, because a lot of them happen in the state of Connecticut. So, go ahead, Nate. And one more. So, this is a boating accident. So, when it comes to scene and protecting scene and collecting evidence, what's our evidence in this picture?
Tree fell.
What's that?
The tree fell.
The tree, and what else? What about the actual boat? Right? Is that part of the evidence, though,
Yeah.
in our crime scene? And what about the operator of the boat? Right? Because that's part of, we have to figure out, was that operator driving under the influence? You guys know about driving under the influence, right? DUI?
Yeah.
Well, the same laws apply to when you're operating a boat, because it's a vessel, just like a vehicle. And so that person becomes part of the crime scene and part of the evidence. So we're going to utilize witnesses, statements from the operator. We're going to test their breath or their urine and test them to see if they have alcohol in their system or drugs. And then we're gonna take pieces from the boat to figure out how fast they were driving, what caused them to hit that tree, etc. Go ahead, Nate. So when it comes to boating under the influence, that's what we call it, a BUI instead of a DUI. When you're drinking alcohol or you're consuming drugs, you actually become more impaired quicker on a boat than in a vehicle. Does anybody want to take any guesses as to why? Think about your environment where you are when you're usually on a boat. Is it hot
No.
when you're on a boat?
Oh yeah.
Right? Usually in the summer,
Oh. Well,
right? Like,
yeah.
so it's hot, it's sunny.
Yeah.
And when the boat is operating, you have fumes from the engine, right? And then when you're on a boat, is it steady or are you kind of doing this kind of,
That.
right? So all of those things that I just listed actually increase the amount of time that it takes to become impaired. So drink for drink, you become more impaired on a boat than you do in a vehicle, which makes it much more dangerous to be in a boat on the water. Are there any stop signs or red and green lights on the water? Just like,
No.
so it's pretty much a free-for-all. And you have to be able to know how to navigate in so many different types of areas to avoid things like this. So these are our guys, our canines in the unit. So this is Sadie right here. These are her two brothers on each side of her. And then this is Ellie Mae. So what these guys do, Ellie and Ruger down here, they are trained to, in addition to, and I'll get into what she does, to find cadavers And do you guys know what I mean by cadavers?
No.
So human remains, or someone who has passed away that is missing. So the dogs are trained to use their nose because the minute a body starts to decompose after we pass away, gases start to build up in our body, and it's a different scent than what we have right now. So the dogs are trained to pick that up. All 4 of them are also trained to find missing people. So if someone's missing, whether they got lost hiking, whether they're intending to evade law enforcement, the dogs are trained to utilize an object that the person had and use their nose to track basically footprint to where they are. And they're also used to find evidence. So anything, let's say there was a burglary down the road, and the person who robbed a store or a home had a knife or a firearm or what have you. We can unleash the dogs in an area that we believe the person may have chucked it, and they will find anything that has human scent on it. So it speeds up the process for law enforcement. Instead of looking and searching, we just let the dog out, and they'll go out and find these things. So in our world, in the hunting and fishing part of the job, we are utilizing the dogs to find people who may be illegally hunting in places they shouldn't be, and they'll find guns, bow and arrows, fishing poles, anything like that. And pretty soon, now 4 of them should be utilized to detect fish and game. So if someone, let's say, is fishing for, you said you've been fishing before, right?
Yeah.
Do you remember what you were fishing for?
Fish.
Was it trout, or was it like panfish, like blackfish or sunnies?
Sunfish and
Sunfish. Okay. So the state regulates how many fish you can take. Usually straight bass, trout, bluefish, blackfish, depending on where you are. Some people will take too many fish and hide them, and we're going to utilize the dogs to help us find and detect anyone who's maybe taking too many fish or maybe killed a deer and did not want to check that deer in. Go ahead, Nate. All right, so another cool thing that we do within the job is we respond to injured wildlife in the state. So we have some neat pictures coming up of some of the wildlife in Connecticut. These were all taken when I was on the job. So does anyone know what this is here? Good job. Go ahead. So what this guy did was he fledged the nest too early. So he was in the nest and he left too early, and then he was just hopping around an area and the public called it in. So we were able to contain him and get him to a wildlife rehabber who are certified people in the state to take care and raise these guys until they're ready to be released. Go ahead, Nate. We all know what that is, right?
No.
Right? Yeah? Yeah. So it's a baby. It's a fawn. Go ahead. So what happened here is, and right, we know it's a fawn because it has the spots on the body. So sometimes when these guys are born, the moms will get hit by cars. And the fawn will stay in an area and just bat and cry looking for their mom. So usually the public will call it in and say, hey, there's a fawn in my backyard. So we'll come in, we'll pick them up, and we'll bring them to a rehabber in the state. Yes?
I had a moose in my backyard
Yeah, I believe you.
on Vernon Street.
Yep. We just had one 2 days ago on 84. So they're here. There's some pictures of them in here. Go ahead. Wild turkeys. So this is a species in Connecticut that you can hunt legally. And what guys will do is they'll go out with shotguns, some with bow and arrow, and they'll shoot these on either private property or certain areas in the state. Go ahead, Nate. And this guy actually it sounds really funny, he was chasing a postman's truck, like day after day, week after week. And what happens is they get very territorial, and what do you think, like if you think about cars and how shiny they are, and sometimes we'll like look at them, he was seeing his own reflection and pecking at the car. And this happens a lot in the state, and people will they'll call and complain. So what we had to do is net them. So we have almost like a big gun essentially, and it shoots out a big net to capture the turkey, and then we'll relocate them. Go ahead, Nate. I'm sure you guys see these around everywhere, right? So, do you know that these guys can carry rabies?
Yeah.
So what's your number one rule when you see them?
Run.
Don't touch them.
We
Exactly.
said run, don't you?
Run, yeah. So what happens sometimes though is that when these guys are babies, I'll tell you what, they are the cutest thing ever. And what people will do out of the kindness of their heart, not knowing what the outcome is they'll try to pick up the babies, take them home, keep them in a blanket, feed them. And anytime any human being or animal comes into contact, gets scratched, bitten, there's a saliva exchange, we have to test these animals for rabies. So essentially what happens is someone out of the kindness of their heart means well to take these guys in, and then we have to end up euthanizing them so that we can test them for rabies. And do you know what we test when they go for testing? What part of their body we're looking for? Brain. Yep. Go ahead, Nate. So black bear and moose is, anyone see a black bear yet in Connecticut? No? I'm sure you will in your lifetime. So what we do is we assist the biologist, usually yearly, and we'll go out and look for dens, and we'll tranquilize the sow, the mother, and we'll go in and count how many babies she has so that we can kind of keep tabs on how many bear we have in Connecticut. So this is a big fella. And can you see his antlers growing with the velvet on it?
That's one I have already.
Oh yeah? Go ahead. So this guy in Cromwell, Connecticut was just walking through, got hit by a car, injured its ankle, so we had to tranquilize it. And what we ended up doing is putting a collar on it. So we'll do that with moose and bear so that the biologist can track them and see where they're going, because they don't go too far and the state isn't that big. So we like to keep tabs on their walking path and where they're living. Go ahead. So this is a bear's butt, and he gave us a pretty good target to tranquilize it, and that's the tranq dart right there that has the medicine in it. And this was in downtown Hartford. It found like the only tree on a street and went right up into it, and so we got called out there. So the bear was tranked, and then what we do is we have a net, nothing big and fancy about this, and we just get so many people, all the neighbors helped us and assisted us, and we each take a side, and the strength of all of us pulling on the net kind of keeps the bear safe when it falls out of the tree. And F7, so this guy, I was taking this picture. I took all these pictures, so I'm like literally looking up at the bear, and you can see the tag in its ear. So if you ever see a bear with a tag in its ear, it means that it's already had contact with us. So it's probably been in someone's backyard for way too long, or it's been in someone's garbage pail. And the biologist came in, tagged it, and usually what they'll do is we'll either haze it with like bear spray, or we'll trank it and relocate it. And it only gets so many times. So if you have a nuisance bear who keeps doing the same thing and the patterns are the same, then we need to start, and it's a public safety issue, then we need to start making some big decisions to see if it needs to be euthanized. So this is what we use to dart the bear. We also have poke sticks. So like if the bear is from me to you and it's in a tree, I can just come under it and just poke it in the butt with the medicine. It usually takes about, depending on the weight of the bear and how much medicine it had, it usually takes about 20 minutes for it to start to fall asleep. You can see it, and then it just starts sliding down the tree. Go ahead, Nate. So this is the bear in the tree in Hartford, and he was just waiting to see what was going to happen with this guy. Sometimes they move around, and you don't know if they're going to come down or stay up in the tree. But does anyone know what to do if you ever came in contact with a bear? Like, let's say you were hiking or you went to a park.
Isn't it like that or something?
Yeah, exactly. So, right, you make a lot of noise and you make yourself appear bigger. And so you raise up your hands and you say whatever you need to say to keep that bear away from you. And usually black bear in Connecticut, we've never had an occurrence with black bear ever causing harm to any humans. So usually they're more afraid of us than we are of them. So the more noise you make and the bigger you make yourself appear to be, that bear is going to get out. And it'll usually tree itself if it can't find a route to run. And that's what it did. It climbed right up that tree. And they're amazing climbers. It's amazing what they get into. And this is after the bear was asleep. So this was Hartford. And then we relocated it to the northwest corner where there's tons and tons of woods. And I waited for it to wake up to make sure it was on its way. Let me see. Okay, Nate, go ahead. So this situation which you see with the camouflage on it there, that's called the can. And what we'll do in some circumstances where, let's say there's bird feeders in backyards. Bear love bird feeders. They'll come in, they'll damage the bird feeder, they'll get into the trash, and we set this can, and basically it's like a trap. So we're putting, does anyone want to guess what we put in the can to entice the bear?
Fish?
No. Donuts. So, like, we take a whole bunch of, like, jelly donuts. You're such a good girl. A whole bunch of jelly donuts. And we bundle them all up and we pack them into this little netted kind of cage and we hang it in the can. And the bear will come right in and then that big trap door will shut. I know, good God. And once that shuts, the can is relocated. And so what that officer in the orange hat is doing is that's a shotgun. What he has in there is it's a non-lethal.
Is it a rubber?
Exactly. It's like a rubber ball shot. So it's the equivalent of like a child getting a smack on the butt. So it's a pain compliance technique with the bear. So we'll shoot him in the butt with this non-lethal rubber ball shot, and it's just a pain compliance. So they associate pain with humans, and then they don't come around again. That's the theory of it all. So this guy, this one and the next one is a little, hopefully you guys are okay with it. I think you're old enough, right? So this, I got a call to Farmington, Connecticut. This deer, so you can see where it's hanging, right, on the side of the screen. So it tried to jump the fence. So deer always, when they move, they're really great jumpers. But this deer, they're really, really good jumpers. And when you see that white tail, that means they are ready to go. They're in flight, they're in motion, they're fearful. That white tail comes up and they're jumping, leaping. So this deer, unfortunately, overnight had tried to jump the fence and got its leg caught in a very bad position. So when I responded on scene, and you can see how much it was struggling to get out the whole night because all the grass is all ripped up. So in a circumstance like this, the only really compassionate thing to do for the animal was to put it down because there's no coming back from an injury like this. And have you guys ever seen like deer on the side of the highway?
Yeah.
Right? So, right, the Merritt Parkway, 84, all these roads over here. That's why hunting in Connecticut is more like a management practice, right? You have too much of one thing, we're going to have dead deer on the side of the road, or they're going to be in your backyards. More so than you want them to be. And you guys all know what Lyme disease is?
Yeah.
Serious thing. It's tick-borne, and obviously deer carry ticks. So it's all a practice of managing the wildlife so that the balance of everything isn't too much and doesn't sway on one side more than the other. Go ahead, Nate. So this moose, that's a moose, and this was in the northwest part of the state, and unfortunately it got hit by a car. And we have everything, you see a lot of roadkill, I'm sure, right? But when a car hits a moose, it is the most dangerous out of all animals for someone who's driving a vehicle to hit. God bless you. It's so tall off the ground, usually what happens is the hoofs will enter the vehicle where the driver or the passenger is, and we've had a couple fatalities in the state with a car versus a moose. So this guy was hit, and when we got on scene, it was still alive, and we had to dispatch it. There was nothing else we could do for the moose, which is pretty sad because there's not a lot of these guys in Connecticut, and we like to see them, flourish. Go ahead, Nate. So another thing that we do in the state is we stock fish. So the fish are actually raised, some of the fish, trout and salmon and broodstock salmon, are raised as fry. So little baby fish are called fry. And they're raised in hatcheries in the state. We have a few of them across the state. And it takes about 2 years for a trout, right, if you guys fish, maybe this big to be released. So the state, what they do is they raise them and we load them up in trucks and we drive all around the state to release them in our ponds, our rivers, our streams, so that people can go out and fish, which is, it's pretty fun to be a part of that. Go ahead, Nate. And this is just opening day fishing season, 3rd Saturday of April. Anybody ring a bell? No? It's a big deal to a lot of people. It's like, I'm trying to think, Manchester. I don't know of any, Manchester is not my town. But it's such a big day that, you go out to these parks and people are fishing, it's like elbow to elbow. It's like a really big deal for some people. Go ahead. And that's one of our broodstock salmons that we stock. So we release some pretty big fish in the state. Go ahead, Nate. And I mean, it's true. It sounds pretty. It could be, sound pretty corny, but I've been on the job 9 years now. I'm still learning because there's so much to learn, but I think it keeps you fresh. And then every season within our job really brings on something different. So we go from summertime, which is like being a regular cop, because you have narcotics in our parks. You have fights. You have issues with people getting along. You're enforcing all the regulations, and you go into hunting season. You go into fishing season. You go into boating season. So it's always different. And then you can go to the last one. And that's just my motto, because I hate people who litter. I shouldn't say that, but I do. So, do you guys have any questions for me? No? No? Good? We do.
They have a worksheet that they can ask questions from.
Oh, absolutely,
Yeah.
sure.
Because to complete the assignment, we're going to make sure that we fill out these worksheets.
Oh,
Some of those
absolutely.
questions would be great.
Yeah. I'm sorry?
What is it?
My name is Holly Bernier. Yes. Go ahead.
Is there a choice to do your job with a dog, or is that just something you wanted to do?
So when I started the job, the canine program, there was none. There used to be many, many years ago. And so 2 years ago, we brought the program back up and I applied for it. So it was always something I wanted to do. So you had to take an oral board interview, you had to do a 1.5 mile run, you'd do a physical fitness test, and then you were selected for the pool to be a handler. And then we actually went to school, her and I, for 4 weeks and got certified with the state police to do all the work that we do. So it was, we're hoping to expand the program with years to come, maybe get a bloodhound and maybe a couple shepherds. What, Nate?
What's the craziest call I've ever been on?
The craziest call I've ever been on was probably the incident at Sandy Hook. So 11 of us actually responded to that call. And that was probably the craziest call that I've ever had to go to. And hopefully we never have to respond to something like that again. But yeah, it really keeps you on your toes, keeps you sharp, and it really lets you know that anything can happen any day at any given time, and you have to be able to act and not let your, that flight or fight thing. So you guys know what that feels like. Have you ever had, a situation that was traumatizing to you, or you kind of maybe you had a disagreement with another student and you felt those feelings coming up. When we get those feelings as cops, you don't have a choice to turn around and go the other way, you have to act. So that was the craziest call I had to go on. Yes.
What did you want to be in high school?
I wanted to be a police officer. So when I was in high school, I was pursuing criminal justice, and I went to college for criminal justice. And when I, you know, the law enforcement field, you apply to a lot of places, and you get a lot of no's. It's a very competitive work field. But the more, just don't give up, persevere. That's all I can say. If you are passionate about something in life, just keep pursuing it. And when I saw this job, it fit me because I like the outdoors, I like wildlife, and it incorporates the law enforcement side of it. So it was a blessing. It really was. Anything else, guys?
Was the education required to be eligible for this job?
I know. So it's a mix of things. You can be already a police officer and they'll take you on if you want the job, but you have to go through all the requirements. So the physical agility, the psychological exam, the medical exam, the polygraph, and there's more to that, big background check. You can have a criminal justice degree. Non-police officer, you can have a criminal justice degree, or you can have a biology degree, or you can have a mix of both. So either way, if you were not hired and you were already a certified police officer, you're gonna go to the police academy, and then you have to pass all those requirements in order to come out and then start the job. Yes, Nate?
Have any of the dogs ever been hurt?
No, and luckily, knock on wood, right? Knock on wood, because, they are, you know, they're out in the woods, they're running around, they're around some people who don't necessarily want to be found by law enforcement. So luckily, all 4 have been safe and sound, and hopefully it stays that way.
What do you like best about your job?
I like the diversity. So it's not, you know, it's not one thing. I do like the BUI, the voting under the influence cases, where we make those arrests. We're looking for people who are intoxicated. I like that. I love what I do with her. It's probably the icing on the cake. But really, it's the diversity of the job, because every season, fall, spring, winter, it changes what I do. So I'm always kind of doing something different, and that's the best part of the job.
What do you dislike about your job?
Well, there's nothing that I dislike. I think that with everything in life, you have the pros and cons, right? And you always have a checklist of like, what's good and what's not. And the goods definitely outweigh the cons. But it's hard, you know, you're always working holidays when your family's out doing stuff like getting together. I'm working Thanksgiving. You know, we all work Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's. So the hours are demanding, but you make it work. If you like something, you find a way to make it work. Other than that, there's really not much I like.
When you're not working,
Mm-hmm.
you keep the dog.
I was just
Oh
about to
yeah,
ask that.
she comes home with me.
Oh.
Yep, so she comes to work with me, she goes on boats with me, she comes home with me, she has, you know, her dog beds, she's a pet at home, and then the minute I get in the truck, she comes with me. And she knows to work based on the commands that I give her. So when she's tracking a human being, I put her in a special harness, and the minute that harness goes on her, she knows it's time to work. If I give her a command to fetch it up or find it, she knows that she's gonna be looking for evidence, and it's game time. And the way that she gets rewarded, because all the work that we do, there usually has to be a reward or else we don't wanna do it, right? Like you're here today, you know what your goal is, to graduate, to get out in the world, to earn money, to be independent. Her reward when she works is her toys. She just loves to play. And it's like, the more animated I am with her when she does something good, the more she wants to work the next time. And I mean, I get animated. I'm like a fool on fire. Like, you know, screaming, jumping for joy. But she feeds off of my energy, and it makes her want to work better the next time. Yes?
What is some commands that she knows.
So find him is the command that I use for her when she's about to track someone. So if there's a scent article, like, not that you're gonna go missing, let's just use you as an example. Let's say something happened, you got lost somewhere, and you dropped anything, your backpack, a sweater, a mitten, it has your scent on it, and a lot of scent. And these dogs can smell better than us. Like they have like 25 million receptors in their nose, so they can smell so well. So I would, over that item, I would put her in a harness, and I would just run her nose over it and say, find them. And then she knows it's time to go work. So fetch it up and find it is another command that we use for the dogs to find evidence. Dig it up is another command for cadaver work, when the dogs are looking for deceased bodies. And with the new training that we're getting, I'm probably going to utilize a different command. We'll see how that goes. Yes?
Could she sniff out like drugs and stuff?
We have one dog within the 4 that is certified to find narcotics. Unfortunately, when it comes to recreating in state parks, there's a lot of, in some places in the state, there's some issues with narcotics. So the dogs are utilized for that, at least one of them. Good, guys?
What about the scent? I've heard goes underwater as well, so.
Yeah, so the cadaver work, we, unfortunately in the summertime, we do have a high number of drownings. And sometimes it's initiated by people swimming, sometimes it's people falling off boats, or being in a boating accident and the person's ejected off the boat. So when you're underwater, depending on the depth and the temperature of the water, you still have that gas exchange going on in the body, and that will actually surface to the top. So the dogs on the boats can pick up on that, and they'll alert. So then when they're alerting on a boat, what we'll have is, we usually work hand in hand with the state police. They have a dive team. Municipal agencies who have what's called side scan on their boats. And it's a device that goes, it's like a probe in the water, and it'll pick up on images on the surface of the ground. So if the dogs hit on the boat, we'll have other departments come in and send divers down to the bottom. And we've actually, unfortunately, that happens very often with bodies taking time to resurface in the water, because typically, depending on what water body you're searching, they stay down for quite some time. And it's a sad situation, but what's great about the outcome of recovery is closure for the family. Usually with all the cases that we have with the fatalities, another part of the forensic science part of this is that the bodies go to the forensic science lab, and then there's an autopsy and a toxicology. A toxicology tells the medical examiner what exactly is in our system. What we ate, when we ate, what we drank, what pills we took. It really is an open book as to the health of the person, of the deceased person. Good? So let me ask you guys some questions. Like, what are your goals? Do you guys know at this point what you're interested in for the future? What about you?
I know I want to be in the medical field, but I haven't picked up the right now.
Very good, very good. What about you ladies? Same.
Forensic science.
Nice. That's very, very good. And with forensic science stuff, which really intrigues me as well, if you get into the right program, there's always volunteer opportunities at like the forensic science lab and internships and things like that, where you can really get involved with analyzing blood, breath, urine, things like that. So it's really intriguing. And what about, yes, go ahead.
I was just gonna ask, have you done this like your entire life, or have you had other?
So I started this, I've been doing this for 9 years, and before that, I was in school working like, odd jobs just to pay the bills and pay the tuition for the school. And it took me 2.5 years to get this job, so it was I had to stay stay very determined and focused and not give up my hope on doing this. And I was also applying for other law enforcement agencies at the same time because I really wanted to do criminal justice and get into that system. So what about you? Any future aspects for work? Do you know what you want to do? No? No? What about you over there?
I haven't really decided.
No? It's not the easiest decision. You know, you have to figure out what you like and where you're gonna go to school, and it's a hard spot to be in sometimes. What about you ladies over here?
I'm not really sure yet, but it's hard to pick with all these people coming and talking about it, because then you're like, oh, that's so interesting.
Yeah,
But I also want to do this.
yeah,
Like, I want to do all of it.
yeah.
You can't.
I know. It's good to start, like, if there's a few things you like, try to find a job that maybe incorporates all the, some of those little things in it. And that way you get to kind of be diverse and kind of, say, oh, I like doing that. And some jobs incorporate all the things that you like. What about you guys in the back?
I'm not sure yet.
No?
Possibly medical. Not sure.
Nice. Well, the medical field is always, I can't see in the future the medical field ever being something that isn't needed. You know what I mean? For as long as we have human beings, we're going to need people to keep us healthy and, treat the symptoms that we have and stuff like that. What about you?
Medical thing.
What about you?
I got a lot.
Yeah? That's good. That's good, right? Better to have a lot than have nothing. Absolutely. What about you, Nate?
I don't know.
You don't know? It's okay. You guys are still so young.
Those are dogs. Those are great dogs. I love dogs.
Me too.
I love
So-
the dog.
Your teacher was telling me about this. Did you talk to them about that? Yeah?
Just a little bit to the other classes, but this is the FEMA class that does some search and rescue, and we were talking to see if you were interested in learning the certification for helping out with FEMA and being an assistant on any kind of response. Yeah. Not necessarily, but when you think about it, you would collaborate with people who do have working dogs,
Mhm.
and you see what it helps to help get the dog in position to help with the search.
Right,
But there's
right,
people on the ground as well,
right.
and so you're in the same environment.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Every municipal police department, like Manchester, I'm sure they have a canine who probably does bite work, tracking, and narcotics. And then state police have arson dogs, so there's dogs to actually sniff out the carcinogens that start fire, which helps the investigators determine what's going on. And then narcotics, cadaver, search and rescue, tracking. So there's just an array of, she's like she did all the work here today, right? It's good though, because she's relaxed. This is the first time she's ever been in a school before. So when we were coming in the building, she's like ice skating on the floor, and I'm just like, this is not gonna go well. But it went really well. Huh, girl? Yes, I know, you're such a good girl. I got her when she was 10 weeks old, and she's almost 3. And this is as big as she's gonna get.
So do you train the 4 dogs together, or is it?
Yes, we do, which turns into, when we give them the time to kind of decompress and relax, it's great because she gets to play with her 2 brothers. And then, and the 4th one, Ellie Mae, is the other female, and they get along great, so it's nice to see her relax. But we train with all 4, and we also train with the state police, with their shepherds, and some other municipal departments like Meriden, Enfield. I've never seen Manchester, or maybe once, he has a bite dog. So it's definitely a kind of a team effort in the training.
This has been such a treat already, knowing that.
Well, I'm glad you guys, I mean, at the very least, you get to know what we do, and this is an option out there if you guys were ever interested.
And just a heads up, I think we can either do it this way, where you stay just while the class is dismissed for a few minutes, or we could go early. It's up to you. What do you think?
Well, what time does the bell ring, guys?
18 after.
18 after? I'll wait.
You want to wait?
Yeah, that way
I was
the-
going to say, once the classes start going, I'm thinking it would be the harder
The
time
calmest
to.
Yeah.
time
Yeah.
to be
Yeah.
in the
But
hallway.
she got here ahead of the time, which was good, because then she wasn't in the hallway.
Yeah, it'll be about
Yeah.
10 minutes tops.
Okay, that's fine. I'll take up the SD.
So, with Sadie, and she's a working dog, so you had told the class, sorry, I didn't mean to get in the middle. You had told the class it's a working dog, so we don't want to touch the working dog or anything. And it was so funny, because then Sadie's been so awesome, and you
Yes.
said to get a feel of the class. But usually when she has her harness on, is there a different rule or
Oh,
anything like
yes.
that?
So when she has her harness on and she's tracking, usually she's so into her work, she won't deviate and want to smell other people. But because of the places where we are when we're utilizing her, there's deer, there's wildlife, there's people. So if I see someone approaching her, I'll just ask them to, politely just wait until we're done, that she's working. And I'm sure you guys see, like, a lot of the dogs, who go into, like, the malls or stores and stuff, they have that vest on, and it usually says, like, please don't touch. And that's eye-seeing dogs, like Fidelco dogs and things like that. And so they're just trying to train and keep that dog in a certain mindset. And if it always associates people with being petted, then it kind of deviates their purpose of working. So, but once that vest comes off, then they can play and be petted. And I've taken her to the Big E, where it's just for public outreaches and things like that. So it's she used to be really, really shy, and she's actually getting a lot better with people. So if you ever see a working dog, it's always nice just to ask the handler first, hey, can I pet your dog, and then they'll direct you from there. I always like to let her smell people first before the hands start coming in. I mean, I've been to places where it was a younger crowd. I mean, you guys are mature. But the kids were just like hovering over her, and she's literally backing up because it's just too much. I mean, they have their limits too, and you never want to put them in a position where they're gonna associate people with a negative experience. She's afraid of lightning. I mean, horribly. So if we're ever on a call and it's lightning, I'm not gonna force her into a situation where it would actually make her have some negative, like, traumatic side effects. We'd call in another dog. So, just keeping everything in mind.
So does she have like a 24-hour pack or anything? I know if you're going out searching for somebody, you don't know that you're going to be out there for a limited amount of time. So what
yeah.
happens with her necessities?
So I have a medical kit for her that I carry in the truck. And I tried to think about the things that, like her dew claws. The environment that we're in, woods and tree limbs and things, when she was a baby, she had those removed because working dogs would actually have them ripped off, and it's the equivalent of like having the tip of your finger kind of severed. I mean, it's extremely painful for the dogs. But I tried to take all those things into account when she was young, but we have a medical kit for her, anything from, her getting stung by something that she's allergic to cut, to eating something she shouldn't. And I always have water and food for her in my vehicle, and I always take like a pack with me when we're out tracking, in case we're out there for long. And we work through the snow. I mean, she's really a cuddler, but she's like a tomboy when it comes to working, because she just doesn't mind getting dirty and working through all the elements. How needy.
How was she originally picked?
Well, 3 out of the 4 were donated from a lab rescue. So then they are basically, at a young age, the state police will handle them and kind of look for certain things. They don't want a dog that's too shy or skittish. They kind of take a toy and see how the dog will play. It's a particular toy, a particular kind of game that they do with them. They're looking for particular characteristics. So they decipher if they see good qualities in the pups, but then it's a 50-50 shot when you go to training. So we had, unfortunately, a dog in our program from another state in our training program who didn't make it. The dog just wouldn't work for the handler. So the first most important thing that happens when you get them as puppies is you bond with them. So the first 3 months, all you're doing is creating a bond with the dog so that the dog wants to work for you. If the dog doesn't want to work for the handler, then you're not going to have successful tracks or anything you have the dog do, the dog's not gonna wanna do it because they don't bond with you and they're like, I don't really wanna work with you. So,
Because I would like to give her a round of applause. Thank you very much.
oh, it's okay.
Sorry.
Come on, it's okay. It's okay. Thank you guys, thanks for having me.
Nick, thank you for being technical advisor.
Thank you, Dave. Good job. Come on.
So let's go to the left up here. I've got it on my computer. If you want to switch your
Lambert?
Oh my gosh, that's damn.
Wouldn't that be weird?
After a while, I'm like,
Yeah, we will feel like.
Yeah.
okay. I'm gonna come pick your brain later. I forgot how
Hi.
I want it.
I know, right? Oh, she's just back out of the class. Yeah, she likes to go up chest high.
Yeah.
She's going now?
What's your name? Sadie girl.
She's not going to the next class. Oh, bring her down.
Let me turn this off real fast.
Sure, oh yeah.
This is so fun.
Is this your class, another class?
I do.
Oh,